Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak, and thank you for staying with us. The hashtag on X is Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya, and at Ayub Abdikadir. With me in the studio, Richard Onyonka is the senator representing Kisii County. Shortly, we'll be joined by Duncan Mathenge, who is the MP Nyeri Town constituency and also a member of the National Assembly's Health Committee, and also Maliba Arnold, who is the strategic communication advisor at the United Democratic Alliance, which is the ruling party. Gentlemen, let's begin with a look at the front pages of the publication and publications. The Daily Nation says, a broken system and delayed national identity cards, dehumanizing treatment in hospitals, pensioners dying in penury, and kickbacks to even move a pen. A 7-month Nation investigation, says the paper, has uncovered the rot in the people facing sectors of the public service, the humiliation with which Kenyans are treated every day, the putrid fumes of graft that waft into the high ceilings of public offices, and the deliberate creation of chaos by a criminal enterprise that has been allowed to milk, pilfer, and dehumanize and desperate Kenyans. That story is further highlighted on pages 4, 5, and 6. The stories of Nyayo House, Kenyatta National Hospital, and also at the pensions office, where many Kenyans still are unable to access their pensions despite making numerous trips, and are always asked to use the back route to meet someone who will hasten or fast-track the process. I first begin with you, Senator Richard Onyonka.
Yes.
This is a reflection of us as a society, is it? And it appears that if we are to do an audit of how we have governed ourselves since independence, that this is an egg on the face of those who are in policy positions, and why Kenyans have low trust in those in power, is it?
First of all, I want to say that I'm extremely appreciative of what the Daily Nation has done. And I hope that many of the media houses and generally the media in Kenya needs to know that sometimes you need to conduct basically what I would call public service. Telling Kenyans, number one, are we headed in the right direction as a country? Number two, how do you feel about being a Kenyan? All right, because public service is supposed to be provided by the national government, which has received its mandate from the public. And to be honest with you, if I was President Ruto right now, I would be a very worried man. This is just, they have picked about 4 items. Kenyatta National Hospital, they have looked at Nyayo House, they have
Pensions Office,
pension services, and it's the same thing. You can go to NHIF, it's the same thing. You can go to HELB, even though HELB is not, doesn't have anything to do with mismanagement per se. It is with the services not being available. Why? The government is not remitting money at the right time. Why? Because even the lists of the students who are getting the money, nobody knows. Why? I mean, all these things, the way that our country is functioning.
Yeah. My
worry is we are slowly basically becoming a banana republic. I mean, Kenya is a country where I never, when I was, the first time I ever traveled out of this country, I just went to Nyayo House. And it did not take 2 days. In fact, I went, I handed over the documents. I then, you know, they took my
fingerprint,
the usual.
Yeah.
And in 2 days, I went and picked my passport and I was going to the US. And that time I was a student. If you look at the lines which are at Nyayo Stadium,
Nyayo House,
Nyayo House. If you look at the number of Kenyan students who have got admissions, I have like 6 individuals who have sent me the little thing. There's the little card, I don't know what it's called, the one from immigration.
The token.
The token.
Yeah.
I have like 6 of them. And what are these people telling me? I applied, I paid. Every time I'm calling, I'm being told, you cannot proceed, you cannot come here and we give you the passport. Why? Because you have to wait. And you know what is very unfortunate? The Ministry of Interior, Professor Kindiki talked about this 2-3 weeks ago, a month ago. Now it is the time. The government must begin to being proactive. The government must begin to engage itself and find out where is it breaking down. Very many things are breaking down in our country. I mean, I don't know what I saw in this story where there are members from ESCC.
Yeah.
But what is the National Intelligence Service doing? The National Intelligence Service is actually the service, was the one which was the GPS. If you wanted to know whether a government department is working well, if you wanted to know that a certain officer is performing well, if you wanted to know that the issue of time is an issue and therefore things are being done, if you wanted to know that Kenyatta National Hospital was a functioning hospital that was providing a service that was highly regarded nationally. All right, you never had people talking about how patients would be brought and patients were basically piled up on the corridor, waiting to be received, and for them to become inpatients waiting for 3 days.
Okay. Arnold, coming to you. It seems this is a reflection of, and this over time has been the common theme among the previous administrations that we had. It seems that it's a privilege for Kenyans to access services where it ought to be a right, and the dehumanizing treatment of Kenyans seeking service in government offices.
Well, looking at the Daily Nation headline today, it relatively is reflective of what we've been as a country for a very long time, and whereas it's not good news, it's not the type of news that you love to read at a time as this, when the country is grappling with other challenges altogether. But this speaks to what we are as a country. And I think that in reclaiming the republic, some of these issues actually need to be taken care of. Over and above we meeting up in the morning and actually complaining about this, I hope, like you said, that the people in policy spaces and decision-making spaces need to go over and above. The reason why we continuously go to the people to seek fresh mandate is to take care of problems that are on the ground and to bring in new ideas and new thinking into solving our problems. So, you know, what the nation focuses on this morning is generally what you would call public goods. Public goods are services that are actually offered to everybody and should not be for profit. Ordinarily, they are those that any other person wouldn't be able to provide bar for the state, a lot of times, or government of the day. So this challenge is here. If anyone were to deny that this is how systemically we've run affairs in this country, really that person will not be honest. But let's get to a place where, like Clinton will say, end of talking. I think we must get to a place where we get to the end of talking about some of these issues. Now we've actually gotten words like systemic, endemic, and everything around this. There's nothing systemic about this other than it's bad manners. And we condone bad manners. We keep on going there. You know, both the people who give bad service and the recipients and those who condone bad manners, in a way, and this is not victim blaming, are complicit in a way. Because and I would like to draw you back to 2002, when, as a country, we were so upbeat. And the people would do citizen arrest for police officers who somehow you realize that even as a country, we went up and worked much better. But be that as it may, allow me to also look at the general thrift that the news reporting has taken in recent days. Of course, we are having the challenges we have currently. Of course, we know the origin, we know where we are, and there's no denying to that. But there is clearly an emerging trend, what I would call a negativity bias. And the media has stuck to the old adage of if it bleeds, it leads. And that we are not moving away from these bad stories. I'll tell you, Ayub, that and I've listened to experienced economists say that sometimes the strength of a currency, up to 25% of the strength of a currency is actually news. So people paid in Kenyan shilling, for example, if we sustain this manner of running the national conversation. You know, we've been sobbing for the last 14 months plus. And it actually, we were a little bit upbeat when we were in the campaigns. There were issues to discuss. And then immediately after that, we sank to this particular direction. So whereas this is reflective, also if as a country we run on this negative streak for a full year, we are going into a second one, and this is the thrust, I'll tell you the truth that it has got lots of ramification.
Okay, but
Number one, of who we are.
When you seem to be heaping blame on the media for doing its job or doing our job. I mean,
no, not heaping.
If it's bad,
not heaping.
Okay.
Ayub.
I mean,
I'll take you back. I'll take you back to my words. Can I just go back?
Good news. What is the good news?
Senator, just hang on. Let's have some.
Let him give us an example of the good news.
I hold him to account.
Yes.
Okay, Arnold. This is the point. I'm wearing a blue tie. Is it? This is not a red tie. So reporting it as blue isn't negative. It's what it is.
I said this. I actually first started by acknowledging that this is reflective of what has been, and it transcends regimes. We actually need to get to a place where I said end of talking, and action is taken on this. But I also pointed out that given the circumstances, the background upon which today we exist, it's not a vacuum. I said that for the last 14 months plus, we're going to 16, I think, we've done nothing other than run what I would call a negative bias. And I actually pointed out that...
Negative bias against who?
As in, I used the adage, if it bleeds, it leads. So there has been no one looking at any good thing that is actually happening in the background. And I will point out that, Senator asked that, I will ask that. You see, there's this thing called the Baader-Meinhof syndrome, the illusion on frequency. If we are looking out, and if you look at the story by the lead story on that, it's not given a headline, you can actually see a very clear strategy in content generation. And I'll read you.
Okay, which is on page number?
4. Second column says, have you been frustrated while seeking government services? Would you like to share your story? Please get in touch with us at ... They're saying that every Tuesday they'll be running this. It's fair, it's good, they're doing their work.
Okay.
But you also know that that is a strategy in content generation. Human interest stories where, using the bad situation we have, we now use that as a strategy to generate content. We give it to them, it's their work. But I'm actually saying that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And that is that we are generating negative news, and I call it a negativity bias by the media, which is not wrong.
Okay. Allow me now to ask you this.
Yes.
Before I go to Honorable Duncan Mathenge, to also seek his opinion. I mean, what's the problem in providing Kenyans, because we're in a democracy, with the platform to give information and experiences they have in seeking public services? You seem to be having a problem with that.
The only thing you're not listening to, Ayub, is my acknowledgement that they are doing their work. This will help in curbing corruption. But also, remember, that is a strategy in content generation.
Now,
at a time when news...
Arnold, the challenge I have is that you seem to be having the prophetic skill of knowing all the information that will come from that as negative.
Again, I didn't say so.
Okay, you didn't say it's a negative bias.
You are sieving my comments and choosing to run with one side tweet.
Well, let me come to Honorable Duncan Mathenge. Yes, Honorable Mathenge, appears that... Kenyans have been let down by their leaders over the years. I mean, it isn't a specific problem to a specific administration, but an audit, if it were to be done, since we gained independence, this is a failure of the Kenyan people, is it? What we have on the front pages of the publications are just a microcosm, a representation of a larger, deep-seated and systemic problems affecting Kenyans, be it healthcare, be it education, be it infrastructure, be it the state of affairs generally, and governance, is it? How can the policy players in this country redeem themselves in the face of Kenyans?
Thank you, Abdikadir. It is true that the headlines that we have today largely reflect the challenges that we are facing as a country. But at the same time, there is a question of when did this system break? I found Honorable Senator Onyonka talking about the queues at Nyayo House. I am a member of parliament. I could walk into Nyayo House and get preferential treatment on the basis of leadership. This last week, my wife applied for a passport. she was given an appointment on Friday at 10 o'clock for her biometrics to be taken. I did not intervene. She went, waited from 10 o'clock, and she had her biometrics taken at 2 p.m. But there was a queue ahead of her. How efficient is the system that we are using? As long as we will keep, as leaders, not interfacing with the system, we will keep relying on hearsay. That hearsay is not 100% correct. When we look at the 1.5 year period and the challenges we face and the attempts that have been made towards correcting, I believe there are areas we have had some tremendous success. In fact, one of the areas where there is tremendous success is the clearance of the backlog of issuing of passports to Kenyans. And I wish we also opened a system where Kenyans would speak, those who have gone, interacted with the systems, and they have experienced changes, some negative, some positive. The positive stories also need a space to be told. The second thing, this issue of complaining. When Kenyans, in our laws, we created the office of the Ombudsman, and it was at one time occupied by Senior Counsel Otiende Amolo. What did Kenyans have in mind at that time? It meant we started recognizing we have issues with government systems, and we actually needed a public office, a repository of the challenges that we are facing. How successful has been this office? Is it time to review it? Let me come to health. And today, the health sector, and I am in the Health Committee of Parliament. Yesterday, we were in Nairobi in Eastleigh, where a small facility where the owner could not even tell us the size of the space he is leasing. That is a level 4 facility according to KMPDC and also NHIF. Between 2018 and 2023, that facility had received from NHIF in excess of 400 million, and yet they are claiming they are owed 78 million. Among the claims being made are for radiology services, where the facility does not have a radiologist to report on radiographs.
So there's no service, but they are making claims.
But they are making claims. So this systemic failure, you cannot come and pin it down and say, this is the problem of the last 1.5 years. And that is why, for example, in the health sector, we have attempted to change the architecture of health services by bringing in the health laws. And
we'll talk about
experiencing challenges.
Yeah, we will talk about the health by extension. But the admission and the experiences you have had, the accounts you were told yesterday, claims that were made for services that are non-existent in a facility, Honorable Mathenge, as a lawmaker who sits privileged at the National Assembly, is that not damning? I mean, does it not tell the bad story about who we are as a society and the admission made, and what are you willing to do about it as a lawmaker?
Yesterday, for me, it was a sad day. And I did confess that for the first time, cannot be just talking. We want the EACC to tell us where they are. In the reports, some of these cases were reported to the EACC and DCI, but nobody wants to tell EACC and DCI, come and account. It is over a 5-year period. Where have they been over the 5 years? The regulators, in terms of KMPDC, how did they license a facility at level 4, yet it did not meet the basic requirements set out in regulations? As long as we will keep, as lawmakers, we are supposed to oversight. Honorable Onyonka has been in this space for a very long time. A very long time. When I was a young public servant, employed for the first time at Kenyatta National Hospital, he was in Parliament. We cannot decide that we will apportion blame when it is convenient for me facing the TV. The president has accepted and acknowledged we have challenges.
Thank you.
On the issue of corruption, no other no less than the Chief Justice, on an interview on BBC last year in September. She said corruption is our collective national shame.
Thank you. We'll talk about that and more. Yes, briefly, before we go on a break and come back here.
I wanted to say that I don't know why my two colleagues and friends feel that what I was talking about is what has happened since the President Ruto and KK Alliance took over power. That's not what I'm saying. So let me clarify. What I'm saying is very simple. When the KK Alliance came in, if you look at their manifesto, they said this is what we'll fix. Do you get what I'm saying? In other words, my brother, you can argue and say, yes, the truth is the status report we have is that we are in a mess. But you see, the argument which has come recently, whataboutism. That no, what about what was happening to us, to this country before we took over? That's not what we are saying. What I am saying is very simple. Our country is not well. And this is not about the KK Alliance. When the KK Alliance was looking for votes and talking to Kenyans, and that is why Kenyans voted for them, they said they would come and they were going to solve certain problems that are actually bedeviling our country. Out of the many, economic, corruption, what do I need to say? When in the last 1.5 years, the KK Alliance Brigade has basically gotten one, the oil scandal, nothing has happened out of it. 2, you go and look at what was happening, the stories about what had happened with the fertilizer, the guys who've been arrested, blah, 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 all that stuff is going on. When you look at the issues, look at what happened to our examinations. All right? I mean, the reality that you look at in our country, if students are able to go and do an exam and the results are all coming, and you find these children have got 226 marks from one to the last one, and nothing happens. And in fact, the story ends up very subtly, and we'll do an investigation and that's it. And I am not attacking the KK government. I am not attacking the CS, Mr. Machogu. What I am saying is very simple. Don't you think that this is a problem? Why do you find it? Why must you be an apologist over what is obvious? The traffic system is failing. You have accidents happening. It's not that accidents started happening yesterday or last year. Accidents have been happening in this country. Why is it that we are not able to solve some of these problems once and for all? Okay. My brother is saying, look at it's embarrassing to find that all that we ever do as a country is to scheme how each one of us want to pilfer public funds, whether it is through NITIS, whether it's through Teacher Service Commission, whether it's about examinations that are being stolen. There is something wrong with us. It has nothing to do with the administration that is existing.
Okay. Yes, briefly, we need to go on.
I'll need to say this, that Honorable Nyonka is right for what he says. But you started this show by asking the question to the people in policy spaces.
Yes.
We, at least for me, I work for a political party. I am also the public servant because political parties are, by extension, public entities. But then what Senator Nyonka is not doing is giving us at least some privilege of the place and the space he actually occupies. Because besides him being a lamenting senator, and you give it to him.
In the opposition. Okay. In the opposition.
Okay.
Just a moment.
Okay.
The opposition, look at this. He's in government, of course, playing the oppositionist role. But this is it. With a senatorial circumspection, he runs away from answering that core question you asked, that for people in policy spaces, what is being done, besides saying that things are bad. You see, for him, for example,
Ayub.
Okay, Senator,
he's talking about me.
I'll give you the time.
Can you discuss?
I'll finish.
I am not.
Okay,
I am not.
Can I finish?
Why Kenya is broken down?
Can I finish?
I am just analyzing why Kenya is broken down.
Can I finish?
I am not the issue.
Okay. I am actually building.
What are the functions of a senator?
I am building.
What are the functions of a senator?
And I was going to that.
Okay,
I'm building
of a senator.
We have an hour to have this discussion.
I needed to build on that and say this, that, for example, he knows, and I've said with senatorial circumspection, he goes around these issues. What I expected and hoped from him, and he's actually a ranking man in that particular house, is that you ask for people in policy spaces, for example, besides showing up here in the morning and complaining, any bills to this effect, any motions to this effect that are registered, petitioning the president. By the way, he is the president's friend. How many times has he reached out? He's a connected man. So I want, as Ayub, that when you invite specifically people who are in authority to go beyond complaining, because I'll tell you, if you turned this show into just an upmarket, Bunge la Mwananchi, where what we say here is not so different from what Kimbi Kimbi or Nuro Kanga would be saying, we actually need to also favor the people who are watching us with much more than just the usual banter and the complaints. Because we've been here, I'll still go back to the word I said. End of talking. A little bit of action
this is my
into it.
question to you, Arnold, as the strategic communications advisor at the ruling party. To that effect, what's then your advice to your members of parliament who are the majority at the National Assembly to formulate bills to that effect that will stave off the challenges the Kenyan people are facing now?
I'll tell you if you've charged. The Kenya Kwanza administration made 172 promises. All of them are either ongoing, a number of them have been done, other than the few that get a little bit of filibustering from courts and parliament once in a while. Otherwise, as of the 172 promises we made, we are working on them well. The only challenges we've had have been two. One, on public communication, and that is largely because a section of the media has not moved away from 2022. And secondly, on diplomacy, which is much more complex than this show can actually handle.
We'll talk about now those promises and what you have spoken about, the orders that came out of the courts, and that will be our starting point, Honorable Mathengi, when we get back from the break, and that in effect to some of the government's major projects, including the housing question and also the healthcare program that the president had lined up in his Ruto Care plan, which he signed into law in October last year, and subsequently the Mashujaa Day last year, which was themed healthcare, and the president signing into law the social health insurance bill, setting in motion what will be a journey to universal healthcare coverage. But to what effect? The hashtag on X is Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Senator Onyonka, Honorable Duncan Mathengi and Maliba will be with us after the break as well. Stay tuned.